Submaximal intensity and high duration (aerobic system). While taking part in any submaximal activity, the dominant energy system would be the aerobic system. This is due to the fact that when taking part in exercise like this, as it is of a lower intensity, we are able to successfully respire and take in a good amount of oxygen throughout this activity. This therefore allows the aerobic system to be used throughout this exercise. This is due to the fact that the system requires oxygen in order to work. However, when used, will produce the largest amounts of ATP, therefore allowing lots of work and muscle contraction to be done throughout the activity. An example of submaximal exercise would be running a marathon. This would be using the ATP/PT system to begin and then move on to the lactic acid system, as this aerobic system will take a couple of minutes to become dominant, as this creates such a large amount of ATP yield when it does. The waste products of this system include carbon dioxide as well as water. This can cause problems for the body, as build-up of carbon dioxide can be very damaging towards the body, as well as excess water. However, the body can deal with these waste products through sweating and expelling carbon dioxide when breathing out. In terms of glycogen depletion and stores, this is where the body runs out of glycogen as a fuel and will have to use another alternative, for example fat or proteins, in order to burn and therefore fuel the body during this particular type of exercise. The most efficient fuel for our body to use in order to make energy is fats. However, this can only happen when oxygen is present. As well as this, our bodies will also have a large amount of fat stores, whereas we lack glucose stores, which is why eating a lot of carbs before submaximal exercise is recommended. For example, carb loading before a marathon. Fat stores are very efficient at producing energy and are the most effective fuel when oxygen is present. As well as this, the body already has very large amounts of fat stores, which is why it's recommended that you should eat carbs, as these stores are considerably smaller. The waste products produced when using the aerobic system include H2O and CO2. Both of these are produced during different stages of the aerobic system. For example, we can see water being produced as a waste product during the final stage of the aerobic system, where the most ATP is produced, known as the electron transport chain. This final stage will produce the large amounts of ATP, 34 in total. However, does also produce waste products such as water and also heat. These can be dealt with by things such as exhaling water vapor and sweating, and the redistribution of blood to the skin in order to cool down the body. In terms of CO2, this is a waste product that can be very harmful to the body if not efficiently dealt with. We see this produced also while using the aerobic system. However, this waste product will be produced during the Krebs cycle phase of this particular energy system. This can be a significant problem if CO2 is allowed to build up. However, this can be dealt with through exhalation of CO2, as we can expel harmful gas when we expire. This means that we can deal with the waste products that are produced by the aerobic system via our basic bodily functions. In order to stay fueled and make sure energy can be produced during a steady state event such as a marathon, a participant can do a number of things before and during to improve their performance and increase glycogen stores in order to provide more energy. Firstly, a participant can eat things such as little sweets throughout, as well as taking things such as energy gels in order to inject their body with sudden bursts of energy and glucose that can be used and accessed as a fuel immediately while performing. Another thing that can be done in order to benefit steady state performance could be staying hydrated throughout the event. Our bodies need to be hydrated in order to work to the best of our abilities. Therefore, keeping hydrated throughout a long-term activity is crucial in order to succeed. In addition, on average, we lose 1 litre per hour purely due to sweat, which means without staying hydrated throughout an event such as a marathon could cause major problems to the body. Another method that allows a person to increase their glycogen stores and increase fuel and performance is known as carbo loading. This is where a person will exercise a lot and starve themselves of carbs so that their body gets used to not having any and tries to retain all it can. After this, they will stop exercising for a couple of days and eat loads of carbs so that the body stores them all as it thinks it will not see any more for a while, therefore increasing glycogen stores. Finally, pre-cooling is another method that can be used before a steady state hydration event in order to be more successful, as explained in the next slide. As you can see in the graph above, shows all clients who were exposed to this pre-cooling and maximal temperature reached the lowest both times. This show was pre-cooling. This shows how successful pre-cooling can be in allowing you to work for a longer amount of time while producing less waste in the form of heat. The graph shows us that these certain pre-cooling people's temperature starts lower and increases more dramatically than the other two. However, in both graphs we can see clearly that the clients exposed to this method had the lowest overall temperature in both examples, as we can see here, therefore providing the validity and how successful pre-cooling can be when used correctly. Neuromuscular fatigue during steady state exercise. There are 5 different neuromuscular factors in terms of this fatigue during submaximal exercise. Firstly, the buildup of waste products produced by exercise, such as lactic acid, can cause a reduction of calcium emitted to the muscles from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This calcium is vital in order to allow muscle contraction, which is needed during all types of activity. This calcium is needed in order to free up the binding site of the tropomyosin and troponin, so that the binding sites are available and can form cross bridges in order to allow these muscle contractions to take place. A lack of calcium due to fatigue will cause this process to be unable to occur and therefore will inhibit/stop the muscle contraction from being able to take place, which emphasizes the importance of calcium in terms of muscle contraction. Secondly, another neuromuscular factor which contributes to the reason for muscular fatigue is to do with the de and repolarization of sodium and potassium, which is found in an axon of the neuromuscular system. This can affect fatigue due to the fact that when this depolarization occurs, some sodium and potassium can be lost from the axon. This will mean that the axon is unable to now send impulses, as without all this sodium and potassium, an impulse will be unable to successfully travel along the axon and into the neuromuscular junction. This can also be the same during the repolarization of sodium and potassium, where some of these elements can be lost and misplaced, which therefore means the impulse will be unable to travel along the axon and therefore cannot reach the presynaptic membrane and then be sent to the muscle fibers to perform a contraction. Another neuromuscular factor that contributes to fatigue is the depletion of the chemical ACH. This particular enzyme is vital in order to allow muscle contractions to take place, as it is this that is released from the vesicles of the presynaptic membrane across the synapse back into the receptor sites. If not enough ACH makes it across the synapse into the receptor sites, then the impulse can no longer travel and cannot be released into the muscle fibers through neuromuscular junctions. In terms of fatigue, this depletion of ACH will mean that if there is not enough ACH successfully reaching these receptor sites, then the impulse will be unable to happen and a contraction will not be able to take place. In addition to the depletion of ACH, another contributing factor towards this neuromuscular fatigue in steady state exercise is the reduction of cholinesterase. This is an enzyme that is used to reset this process of ACH travelling from the presynaptic membrane to the receptor site. Therefore, without this enzyme, this certain process could only occur once and therefore only send one impulse through before needing this cholinesterase to reset the process. Therefore, the reduction of this enzyme can prove very difficult to allow muscle contraction without it, as this is needed to reset the ACH travelling across the synapse and is vital in order to allow multiple impulses to be consistently transmitted. This is why this is another key feature as to why this type of neuromuscular fatigue can inhibit and fully not allow these contractions to take place, as this process cannot occur in full. The final element of neuromuscular fatigue during steady state exercise consists of the buildup of hydrogen ions that occurs when continuous contractions of the same muscles take place over a sustained period of time. For example, running a marathon will require the same constant contraction of the legs throughout the entirety of the event. This continuous repeated contraction of the same muscles will cause a buildup of hydrogen atoms in the muscles, which will therefore make the blood more acidic, meaning more fatigue of the muscles will take place, as well as making the muscles have a slower contraction velocity force, which over a long period of time will stop the muscles from being able to contract overall.